Hi, everybody. Welcome, and thank you for joining me this morning on the exploratory call for our next cohort of Vessel. I'm going to start off by telling you a little bit about who I am, what it is that I do, why I guide into this, and of course, if you have any questions that you would like to see addressed on this call, please feel free to post it in the Zoom chat because I will be checking that periodically just to make sure that you get everything you need out of our time here today. So who I am Fally, and if you would have asked me as a kid, or even not just as a kid, even as an adult, not that very long ago, if I ever dreamed that this was going to be my life, no, I never would have, even in my wildest dreams, suspected that I would be sitting here getting ready to run my fifth cohort of Vessel, and not just Vessel. We do Vessel, we do Ignite, we run workshops. There's so many things happening in my world. And not that very long ago, I never would have dreamed that I would be here today. So who am I and what got me here today? Recently, less than a month ago, I was running a workshop. I run these amazing 3-day in-person intensives a couple times a year. And at one point during the workshop, one of the participants had asked me, she turned to me and she said, "How did you know? How did you know, with everything that you went through in your life, how did you know that you were ready to do this, that you were ready to step up and, work with people and see clients and pass your knowledge or wisdom or skill on to other people? When did you make that move?" And the truth is, I don't have an answer to that because I never thought I was going to be here. This was not my 5-year plan. This wasn't my 10-year plan. This wasn't my plan at all. I think what got me to here is really started with this. Some of you may know this book or maybe even have read this book. It's called Miracle Ride. It's written by me, but there's a different name listed. I wrote it under a pen name. The pen name is Sept. It's a book that was published by Art Scroll Misora back in 2007. 2008 may have been, the first printing was 2008. And what this book is really all about is my diary. It's a diary that I wrote at 16 when I was going through a very rough period in my life. I was diagnosed with cancer, with Hodgkin's lymphoma at 16 years old. And I dealt with it on a very personal level, the way anyone who gets diagnosed with cancer deals with it, the way they have to. They're fighting for their life. And at the time, I wrote a diary just for myself, just to keep track for me about the events and the movements in my life, because I knew that one day I might want to look back at that time and see what I learned, see what I gained, gather inspiration or lessons from that time in my life. And I could never have known that by doing that for me from a very personal place, that was my own personal decision, that was going to lead into a book. My diary was published into a book that went into 7 printings as of last summer that inspired thousands of people all around the world. One thing led to another, and it kind of snowballed without me asking for it. And when I stand here in front of you guys, getting ready to run my next cohort of Vessel, I'm going to tell you that that's what brought me here. It was never some great plan that I said, "Oh, that's my vision. I want to become this famous person who gives courses to people all over the world." That wasn't it. Everything that I've ever done, I've done for myself. I've done it because it was something that I went through. It was something that I had questions about. It was something that I experienced, I struggled with, and I needed to learn for myself. And through doing this for myself, and many times by myself, because the things that I was looking for, the things that I needed, maybe didn't exist or they weren't easy to find. So I had to create them for myself. And by doing those things for myself, eventually, they started spreading. They started being a gift that I can give to others. So when I come to you here, I wish I could say that, "Oh yeah, I have all of these degrees and credentials." I mean, I'm sure I have some. I've been around and I've put in my 10,000 hours and I've put in the work, but I don't come to you as a therapist. I don't come to you as a facilitator. I don't come to you as anyone professional. I come to you very much as a human being who has had to figure things out. And throughout my years of figuring things out, this became my gift that I can now give over to the world. So that's who I am. But I very intentionally show up to my calls like this in a hoodie. Many times I forget to put on eyeliner. I have to learn to keep like eyeliner in the bathroom of my office, because half the time I come onto my Zoom course and I'm like, oh, I can't go on the camera like this. And I come on in my, in my tichel, because this is who I am. I'm you. We are the same. We're all going through this. We're all kind of walking each other home. And that's how I show up, as just another human trying to figure this world out. So what's my why? Why do I do the things I do? Because there are a lot of people who have been through things in life. Many people have been through very similar things to what I've been through. And here I am doing this, and other people tend to move on. So obviously there's something that makes me maybe a little different or have a different perspective on things. And that's what I would call my why I do what I do. And I think that comes back to me always being a seeker, a questioner. Didn't always work out to my advantage. I mean, you can imagine when I was a kid in school or high school, the kids with questions are not always labeled the best kids. They're usually the kids that are labeled a challenge. And I'm pretty sure I was a challenge to some of my teachers back in the day. This time of year always brings up one of my big stories that happened to me on the first day of school when I was 16. It's actually written, I think, in my book, in the book I just showed you. When I was 16 on the first day, our teacher walked in and she just pointed to one kid. And this was her standard lesson that she opened up every year with. Apparently she had been doing this lesson for 30 years, but I don't know that because I don't have older siblings. So I didn't get the legacy passed on, like what to expect from your teachers on the first day of school. And this teacher just came in and she pointed to me and she's like, you. Now, the reason she pointed to me was because my last name put me in alphabetically in the center of the class. We were seated in alphabetical order. So she just pointed to the center kid in the center row, which happened to have been me. And she says, you. And she says, do you love Hashem? And I'm like, no. And of course, the whole class starts laughing and the teacher gets very quiet and starts flustering. And she's not really sure what to do with this information. And she says, you don't love Hashem? And I'm like, no. And she says, why? I said, because I'm 16. Like, what do you expect me to say? Yes, I love Hashem. I don't think I really know what Hashem or who Hashem is. And also, I think if I would have said yes, you would probably spend the next 45 minutes of the lesson explaining why that's not possible and just basically making a fool out of me. So I'm just going to be honest and I'm going to tell you no. And you can continue with your lesson. And she was very flustered by this. And she says, I can't believe that you have the chutzpah to say it. I said, it's not chutzpah. I'm just really honest. I'm genuine over here. I'm not being chutzpahdik. You just wanted an answer, right? And so she says, can I ask you something? Do you keep Torah and mitzvos? I said, yeah, of course. And she says, why? You don't love Hashem. I said, well, it's the same reason I do your homework, right? I don't have to love you in order to not want to be punished by you. And that was my first suspension of the year. I was asked to leave school for the first week of school. I was suspended for 3 days. And that gives you an idea of the kind of student that I was. I was a challenge. But I wasn't coming at it from a place of chutzpah. I wasn't coming at it from a place of wanting to make issues. I was coming at it from a place of sincerity and honesty and also curiosity. I am someone who is always seeking. I'm curious and I'm genuine and I want answers because I believe in more. I believe that life has to be about more. I remember being a kid and sitting in class and, teachers just kind of giving things to you and you take notes and then you memorize them for a test and then the test is over and then you kind of forget about it. And that didn't sit right with me because life had to be about something more. I was living life right here in this moment. I needed this moment to make sense, not the information that I was memorizing for a test that I was going to later forget. I wanted this moment to be magical. And if that annoyed me, when I was in school and high school, you could imagine how much more pressing this question became when I started going through some really serious things, right? Like when I was diagnosed with illness or when other more serious events happened in my life. And you all know what I'm talking about because I don't think that there's a person on this call or that there's a person in the world that hasn't at some point or at many points said, no, my life has to be about more than just this thing that I'm going through. And I remember that when I was diagnosed with cancer, many people told me, don't worry, you're going to get better and you're going to forget all about this. And I remember thinking to myself, no, that's not the point. The point is that this moment matters too. And I just need to figure out what it is about this moment. I matter in this moment. Don't just tell me, oh, don't worry, just it'll be over soon and you will never have to think about this time again. Every moment of life is precious. Every moment of life deserves to be lived to its fullest potential. And I wanted more of that. And nobody was answering my questions. And so I realized I had to kind of answer my own. And that's my why. Everything I've ever done if I look back over my life, has really come down to this. Life has to be about more. And how can I make it more? And the answer for me was really presence. How can I learn to really be in this moment, no matter what is going on in this moment, no matter where I would like to escape to? How can I be here now and recognize that this moment has something very precious, very important, and very valuable to teach me? And so that brought me to the what it is that I do. And I do a very great many things. I'm one of those people that sometimes I feel a little bit of shame around this, because growing up, the paradigm was that an adult, the first thing you ask an adult, right, is what it is that you do. Like, what's your job, right? What do you do? And most adults that I met growing up, they did this thing, right? They were a teacher, or they were a computer programmer, or they were a speech therapist, or they were an accountant. And they were that for 20, 30, 40, basically their entire adult lives. It became a career. It became a commitment. And I always had a little bit of shame around this idea that I never really figured out what it is that I want to do or be when I grow up. In fact, we were at a family simcha just last week, and I was sitting with my mother-in-law, and she says, I never really quite figured out what it is that you do. People ask me all the time about you and your work, and I never really know what to tell them because I don't really know what it is that you do. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I haven't figured that out either. There are a lot of things that I keep myself busy with. There are a lot of offerings that I bring to the world. Thank God, Baruch Hashem, I'm very proud of that. But if you ever ask me what it is that I do, I don't know, because what I'm doing is I'm living, and my heart is always going to be inspired by my curiosity, by my current needs at any given time, by my current interests. And so I'm constantly evolving. I'm not one of those people who can say, oh, I'm a therapist, or I'm a doctor, or I'm a lawyer, and say that for the next 40 years. I have a feeling that every time you're going to meet me, I'm going to be saying something else. But my why, the why I do what I do, will never change. So what I do will constantly evolve. Today it might be Vessel, in a couple of months it's going to be my course Ignite. It'll be a workshop, it'll be a training, it'll be, I don't know what's in store for me. But why I do what I do never changes. And the why is I want to inspire people to seek more, to make more out of their everyday lives. So let's talk about what we came here today to talk about, which is Vessel, which is one of the things that I do and that I offer. And Vessel is a course that I give every year between Sukkos and Chanukah. It's an 8-week course, and it fits beautifully into those 8 weeks when Yamim Tovim end and our long haul of winter begins. There's no Yantif, there's no interruption in those 8 weeks. So it's a perfect time as winter begins, at least here on the East Coast where I live, as winter begins and there is this slow and steady inward direction. We start facing inward. Summer is when we start looking out and we start being social again and we spend time outdoors. Winter is the time where we pull our energy inward. And it's such a perfect opportunity for us to start looking inward to that place of da'es atzmacha, to really get to know yourself. Everything in Vessel is built on those principles of da'es atzmacha, getting to know ourselves. This time of year, we talk a lot. Today is Aleph Slichos. We talk a lot about tshuva and the process of tshuva. And if you were like me and you grew up in a Beis Yaakov or yeshiva system, you always learned that tshuva has 4 elements, right? There are 4 parts to doing tshuva, and I'm sure you can recite them all. And even if you can't, this is not going to be a tshuva lesson. Don't worry, we're not going to go there. But something very fascinating to me about the word tshuva is that it can be divided into the words tashuv, hey, come back to hey, which is 5, which is the 5th. But we always learned that tshuva has 4 parts. So what is this 5th part? And there are many answers to this question, but for me, the 5th part is, it's very nice when you can say I'm sorry and express your guilt and say you're never going to do it again and do all the reparations, and that's wonderful. But if you're not willing to look inside and ask yourself, but why? Why did I do the things that I did? Why was my behavior this way? Why did I respond in that way? Then of course we're doomed to repeat those behaviors again and again. So the 5th element of tshuva, once we've acknowledged the sin and dealt with that, and let's not even talk about sin because I have a bunch of things to say about what I think about that word and what it really means. I don't think sin exists. I think there's a concept of being out of alignment. And the 5th element is asking yourself, what is alignment? What would my highest value be? What would my highest thriving and my highest alignment look like? And how can I seek inside of myself to find out why I'm not living according to those values? And so all of a vessel is built on those underlying principles. I hear the word healing being thrown about a lot these days. More than healing, the words healing journey. If I got a quarter for the amount of times that I hear the word healing journey, I would be very, very, very wealthy at this point. And I know a lot of you are laughing with me because as I'm saying the words healing journey, you're probably thinking, oh my gosh, she's right. It's one of the most overused idioms of today. Idioms or axioms? I don't know. I'm not sure what the proper grammatical term for that is, but it's one of the most overused terms today is the healing journey. And vessel is not about healing. It's not about healing. It's about the recognition that we're already whole. There's nothing that could make you any less whole or any less wonderful than you already are, except you forgetting how wonderful you already are. If any of you have little kids or spend time around little kids, it's amazing how whole they are, right? You see a 2-year-old and they are so confident. My 2-year-old, well, he's not quite 2 right now, but he's in the stage where he's unpacking every cabinet in my house, just every cabinet. Every time you walk into the kitchen, there's pots all over the floor. And he does it with such joy and such confidence of course I'm allowed to do all of those things. Of course I'm going to make a mess right now. There's no question that I'm okay to be doing those things. But then think about your kids who are 8 or 10 or 15 and how they're kind of making their mess in secret, in hiding, in shame. And what changed? What changed? It's a forgetting. It's a forgetting of how wonderful and how awesome we are. Think about when a 2-year-old, when a toddler makes a mess, what's the first thing that you do? You run to get your camera and you're saying, this is so cute. Oh my goodness, look at what they put peanut butter in their hair. You got to make sure to catch a picture, right? And then at some point, we stop acknowledging that the mess is part of their growth, that the mess is a normal part of their behavior and it should be celebrated and embraced with love and guided with love. And when we stopped getting that at whatever age, whatever stage, and for whatever reason, we started experiencing shame. And that shame took us away from remembering or from recognizing how wonderful and how whole and how beautiful we already and always were. So vessel is a remembering. Vessel is a coming back home into ourselves. It's a reclamation, reclaiming of that aliveness and that joy and that beauty and that authenticity of who we were meant to be, who we once were, and who we always could be if we believed in ourselves enough to step into that. And like I said, I'm not going to give this whole tshuva lesson right now, but I will tell you one thing that I heard. In the Torah, every time we want to understand the real point of a word, we go back to the first time that it was used in the Torah. And the first time that the word tshuva was used, that the shoresh of shin beis, shev, was used is when the Torah talks about Shabbos, when it talks about coming home to rest. And people think that teshuvah is about atonement, about sin, punishment, and guilt and shame. And it's not. It's not. It's about coming home. It's about feeling at rest inside of ourselves. And most people have never heard of this concept before, right? Because if you grew up the way I did, you were basically taught you're not good. You're not allowed to rest. You constantly have to do and do and do and beg and beg and beg and atone because probably deep inside you're not okay. And you're going to spend the rest of your life atoning for this idea that you're not okay. And that's kind of what I got. I think maybe unintentionally. I don't think anyone is coming at it from a bad place, but that was the message that I internalized growing up, that there's inherently something not okay with me, and therefore I constantly have to be very hard on myself to make sure that I'm doing better. And then it's any wonder why today in the world of self-growth, right? The world of healing, people are like, I'm broken. I need to be fixed. Well, it comes from the same place. We all lost that sense of, I'm actually okay. I'm really okay. I may be out of alignment, but I'm okay. And I can lovingly come back to a place where I remember that. So real tshuva is about the ability to rest inside of myself, inside of my own heart. But when was the last time I was able to do that? When was the last time you were able to do that? And yes, I know we are in the weeks of the year that are probably the hardest for Jewish women everywhere. I know people tend to think that Erev Pesach is the hardest for Jewish women. I beg to disagree. I don't think Erev Pesach is the hardest for Jewish women. I think it's those weeks in between camp and school, those 3 weeks when the kids don't have anything keeping them busy and it's constantly mommy, mommy, mommy every 5 seconds. And then we think, but it's going to get better when the kids start school. And then it doesn't get better because 5 minutes after school starts, then the Yontif season starts. And these are like the hardest 6 to 8 weeks for me of the school, of the calendar. And that's the regards that I get from women everywhere. So when was the last time you had a chance to just rest? And I'm not talking only physically, right? Emotionally, just rest. A few days ago when my kids started school, and it wasn't even a full day, it was a half day, but it was the first day probably in 3 weeks that every single kid was out of the house. And I was actually here in my office at my desk doing some admin work. And I realized that at some point my hands were shaking. And I had to stop and think about what that was. And I recognized that in a couple of weeks, I had not had the opportunity to come to a place of rest and just be here now in my body without the thought that someone might be interrupting me at any time. So from a very physical perspective, women, men, adults, we don't get a chance to really rest very often. But from an emotional perspective, even more so. When was the last time we actually felt safe in our own hearts? So safe that we could sit alone without any distraction for an extended period of time. No cell phone, no music, no admin stuff that we have to do. When was the last time we felt safe enough or calm enough to just close our eyes and take 10 deep breaths? Do you know how many adults struggle with that? Do you know how many grown men and women struggle with the ability to close their eyes, relax their bodies, and take 10 deep breaths? Because we have been so conditioned to be external all of the time. We're on such high alert all of the time, especially if you're like me and you live in the city. There's always noise. There's always something going on. When was the last time you heard your heart say, welcome home? Come and sit here with me for a little bit. And that's what Vessel is designed to do. Vessel is designed to be a reclamation and a remembering, a coming home to a place of rest inside of ourselves. So I know this sounds a little bit vague, and you're probably thinking, how will this course help me? What exactly is it that we do on Vessel that's going to help you? Well, let's talk a little bit more vaguely, and then we'll get more specific. So Vessel was designed to bring about new perspectives. You can see that I have a lot of books behind me, and I have books around me as well. And Vessel is informed by so many different ideas and concepts And what I've learned over the years is that there's no one right way to do anything. There are many paths, there are many approaches, and Vessel is designed to help you explore a bunch of them, to help you find what works for you. But in principle, what Vessel offers are new perspectives, new ways of looking at old ideas. One of the foundations of this is when I recognized, not that very long ago, was that my perspective on things that I thought I knew was old, outdated, and frankly, very detrimental. My perspective on Torah, my perspective on Judaism was informed by, I don't know, my fifth grade teacher, and probably never grew past that. I mean, how many of us have really dedicated ourselves to studying the Parsha each week, or really studying Judaic concepts? We tell ourselves that we're Jewish wives and mothers and we know how to run a Jewish home, and we probably do, but how many of us invest in that full time? We don't. And I'm not saying this from a place of judgment, it's just how it is. And so what is our Judaism informed by? Probably the last time we were in school. For me, that was over 20 years ago, which is pretty crazy. And I've had a lot of grief and resentment over the years about stuff that I had been taught, right, about Torah and Judaism. And I kind of resented the system that raised me. And at a certain point, I realized I don't get to do that. That system raised a fifth grader. That system raised a seventh grader or a 10th grader. And they taught me things that were appropriate at that stage in my life. But 20 years later, it's my responsibility to upgrade my knowledge and my content, right? And that was just in that area of my life. But I recognized that I needed to do that in every area of my life. And so this course, Vessel, is designed to give you new perspectives on so many different areas of your life. Every module covers a different relevant foundational topic, and we'll talk about those soon, to help you gain a new awareness and understanding of what those ideas, concepts, and programs actually are for you. And then we move into tools. Vessel is designed to give you tools, a lot of tools, whether they're designed in the, let's see if we can find her right here. Is this it? No, this is the Ignite workbook. Here's our Vessel booklet. Every cohort, you get a beautiful Vessel. I don't know how clear it is on the screen. We call it your heart work. So the heart work is actually 120 pages that we cover over 8 weeks. They're pages of journaling, exercises, and tools that you get by virtue of doing this course. These are tools that they're going to be with you for a lifetime. You could come back to them at any time, and they're going to start informing the way you think and the way you view the world. There are also practices. You get audio meditations to download every single week. Some of you are not great writers or journalers. I know, I'm one of them. And you prefer audio learning or journeying. And that's what we do with the audio meditation. Some of you are like, hey, 1 week I want this and 1 week I want that. And that's perfect. So there are so many different areas of exploration in Vessel, from the lectures, which gain new perspectives, to the tools that you get to incorporate for the rest of your life, to the practices that you can come back to at any time. And most importantly, for me at least, was that you get to do Vessel in community. I only open Vessel once a year between Sukkos and Chanukah. And there's a reason for that, because I've done a lot of those courses where, you just sign up and then you kind of self-pace it and you do it on your own, and then you never finish because you think you have it forever. And also because you're kind of alone in it. And one of the things I really found in this work is that it should not be done in a vacuum. One of the hallmarks of trauma, and we're not going to talk about what trauma is, we save it for module 6. Yes, all the way in module 6. Out of 8 modules, we wait till module 6 to talk about trauma. But one of the hallmarks of trauma is that it's something that you experience in a vacuum. It's something that you experience in isolation. I can't tell you how many times I've heard women and men and kids say, I feel like I'm crazy. I feel like nobody understands me. I feel like I'm the only one. And I kind of like bite my lip and think, oh my gosh, if you only knew that I've heard your story 1,000 times before. Everyone, we're all going through, we all know what pain feels and betrayal feels and anger and rage and heartbreak and loss and grief. We've all dealt with those things, and our stories, as much as we feel that we're the only ones going through it, some of the most beautiful awarenesses are, hey, I'm not alone. When you can recognize that somebody else understands you, they've been through the same thing or they've been through a similar thing, and they can make eye contact with you and let you know, I get you. I really, really get you, and you're going to be okay because you're not alone, and I see you. So one of the most beautiful parts about Vessel is that we get to do this in community. What does that mean? Well, you may have heard that we have a Vessel WhatsApp group, and the WhatsApp group is a fabulous part of what we do on this course. Every woman who has ever taken Vessel from any cohort, so we're about to enter our 5th cohort, so that means we're going to have 5 cohorts of Vessel women all on this one chat. And it's such a diverse group, such a mixed crowd of ages and stages and backgrounds. And it's so beautiful. And every week when the module opens, the women discuss what they learned on that module and how it ties back to what they learned on the last module. And they have questions and they have support and they share such beautiful awarenesses. And it's such an amazing place to be and to see what's going on. If that sounds overwhelming, it could be. Yeah, the Vessel chat can be a little overwhelming, and it's still such a wonderful opportunity to collaborate with people who really, really, really get it. But if you don't have WhatsApp or WhatsApp groups are not your thing, the beautiful part about Vessel is that we're all doing this at once. So even though you're going to be watching the lectures and kind of doing the heart work on your own, we come back every single week on Thursday mornings for a Q&A. And the Q&A is designed by you. So I know that what we're talking about sounds a little vague, and there's a reason for it, because 75% of Vessel is you. I feel like I only show up with 25%. 25% of Vessel is what I bring, right? It's the lecture. But then 75% of what you experience is so much designed by you. It's the way you show up for your heart work. It's what you get out of your meditations, and it's the questions that you bring to the Q&A. So the lecture it opens up every Sunday, and they tend to run about an hour and a half each week. The Q&As go for about 2 hours, sometimes 3, because my commitment is that I answer every single question that comes up on the Q&A every week. So what happens is, after you listen to the lecture on Sunday and throughout the week, as you're doing your heart work, you will have certain things that you're going to want explored or explained. And you get to email in questions, and we show up on Thursday, and all questions are answered live on a Q&A completely anonymously. So don't worry about any personal information getting out. And it becomes such a dynamic and fun process, because as much as I want to show up with the lectures and teach you what it is that I think I want to give over, the Q&As are where we get to interact and you tell me what it is that you really need to hear. And I live for the Q&A. So even if you're not on the WhatsApp chat, there's such an abiding sense of community that happens on the Q&A as you're hearing your questions being answered, and you hear the questions of other people being answered, and other people are asking questions that you didn't even know to ask. And they're turning on light bulbs in your head, and you're thinking, thank you so much for answering that question, because I didn't even know that I had that question, and it makes so much sense in regards to my life. So there's such a joy and connectivity that happens each week on the Q&A. So let's talk about what you can expect from Vessel on the most practical level. So on the most practical level, every year when I taught Vessel, we logged on together over Zoom. Up until now, the first 4 cohorts of Vessel were the Vessel was a Zoom course. We were a Zoom cohort. We would log on Sunday nights at the same time each week. And it got a little hard for people who were in different time zones or had little kids, putting them to bed, and it became a little bit of a stress and a pressure. So this year we are doing something very exciting and brand new. All the lectures are pre-recorded and they are uploaded onto an online site. And so the lectures open up every Sunday morning. So Sunday morning, as soon as you have a minute to yourself, you have all day to log in and watch the lecture at your own convenience. Every Sunday, no matter where you're at in the world, there's no pressure to show up to class at any given time. The lecture opens for you, and as soon as the lecture opens, you can listen to it. You have access to the PDF of the heart work that week. You have access to the meditations, and you are good to go. Then you can send in your questions at any time during the week. And Thursday morning, we are going to gather. We took a poll on the Vessel WhatsApp chat, and it looks like most of the Vessel participants prefer Thursday morning. Prior, we had done it Thursday afternoons, but we're going to be doing it Thursday morning this year, either at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time or 10:15, around that time every day, every Thursday. You get an email. Don't worry, you get an email letting you know every week, the reminder that we have Zoom Zoom Q&A, and that is where I answer all the questions. You don't have to worry about not being able to show up to the Q&A. I know that 10 a.m. Eastern is not a great time for everybody involved. All the Q&As are going to be recorded. So definitely send in your questions, even if you're not able to be on the call, because I will answer them. They will be recorded and then they get uploaded to the website. So when you're going to log into our website, don't worry, when you sign up to the course, a couple of days before the course begins, you'll get a video showing you the walkthrough of the site, how you can click into all of your lectures, and it's really intuitive. There's a great flow process. And at the very end, we add every week a little button where you can watch the Q&As of that week. So you never have to worry or feel pressured to show up to any class because everything is recorded and you can watch it at your convenience. Will the recordings be taken off or made unavailable at any point? Yes, they will. So you will have access to the course for 4 months. So the course itself is 2 months. So module 1 opens the week 1, module 2 opens the next week, module 3 opens the next week. You cannot skip ahead to the modules, but you can always look back. And after 8 weeks, after we finish the course, after 8 weeks, there will be an additional 8 weeks, because many people say after module 8, they want to go back and restart module 1. And I totally honor that. I totally respect it. And also Vessel is a lot of content. We'll talk about that in a minute. So we give you an additional 8 weeks to navigate, to listen, to explore the course content, and then the course locks. So you have a total of 4 months to have fun with the course, and then it locks. However, my promise is that if you're taking Vessel with me, or if you've ever taken Vessel with me, you get to rejoin again free of charge every single year. So if you're on this call or you're listening to this call and you're wondering if you need to sign up for Vessel again because you took it last year or you took it 2 years ago, no, you're automatically in. Yes, we're changing things up. We used to be over Zoom and now we're going to be on an online platform. You're already registered. If you've taken Vessel with me before, you are already in. And we do this free of charge every single time. Why? Because the most important part of this course is integration. Change takes time. It does not happen overnight. I am living proof of that. I've done so much in my life, but it doesn't happen in a moment. It happens over many moments, over many years. And so there is no way to take the 8 weeks of Vessel content and just absorb it and change your life. Like people ask me, I'm looking for that thing that's going to change my life. Yeah, it might change your life. In fact, it probably will change your life, but slowly and not always in the ways that you expect. So integration is the most important part of this, which is why we give you the 4 months to play around with the content. And then we invite you to come back free of charge every single year. I know that there are other courses that charge like a nominal fee to come and retake it. I'm not a believer in that. I have a certain policy. I don't think mental health should break the bank. I feel like this is stuff that we all deserve. We need. These are kind of our lifeline for living. And so I feel like, yes, sure, there has to be an entry. We pay for products, we pay for services, but I believe that once you're in, you should be in. You should be in forever, and you should constantly be encouraged to do this work. I know that every year it can feel like a lot, like, oh, I have to pay for my next round of therapy, or I have to pay for this next event. And I don't want people to feel that with my work. I want people to know that once you're in, you are always in. And you'll hear it from prior participants in Vessel. They're like, I can't wait for Vessel to start again. People are really excited. It feels like coming home again. It feels like coming back to camp with your favorite people and meeting new people who are on the same wavelength. And I love that we can do that together. I noticed that there are questions coming into the chat. I will look at them all. Don't worry. I'm just going to go through some of my own stuff first, and then we'll get to yours. Vessel is not therapy, okay? I am not a therapist and I don't claim to have all the answers, but it works very well alongside therapy. So I have a lot of women doing this course who are really encouraged by their therapists to log in and participate, and then they bring their heart work to their therapy sessions and get to talk about it with their therapists, and I love that. And every year I have therapists sending clients my way, therapists that I've never even met. And I'm hearing from them recommending my course. And it's such a nice feeling. It is such a nice feeling for me because years ago, when I was really struggling and I started therapy, I didn't know this at the time because no one prepared me. I was bouncing around from therapist to therapist, and I wasn't really finding my place. I didn't know at the time that it can take a while to find the right therapist, and it could be like a shidduch, right? And every time someone didn't work out, I kept thinking that, the issue was with me. And it took a while for me to really understand, like, this is okay. This is a process and this takes time. And therapists offer one type of thing, and there are courses and books and trainings and webinars and intensives that offer another kind of thing. And don't limit yourself. Just really be open and be willing to embrace every aspect of this process for yourself. And it's so beautiful for me to have therapists who say, hey, we're amazing therapists. We do beautiful things in therapy, but there's always more. And that just comes back to my belief that life has to be about more. And anything that can really fit into your process, your growth, your embracing of life, I'm here for that. Some other questions that people that sent in via email. So I'm not going to go in any particular order. I just want to make sure that we cover this on the call. How does Vessel compare to my other course, Ignite? So it doesn't, right? They're two totally different things. Ignite is about intimacy and sexuality, and Vessel is more about self-development, inner work, and tools for living. Somebody asked on the chat before, why do I call this Vessel of Truth? Because honestly, we are the vessel, right? Your body, even your psyche, is a vessel for your soul. We're more than just this moment. We are more than just this body, right? This body is a vessel for the more that we are. And my whole why is, hey, we got to be about more. So the recognition that we are a vessel and the truth of what this vessel actually holds, this whole course is designed to help you get back in touch with that truth, the truth of who you really are. And please trust me, you are not your trauma. You are not your story. When years ago, in 2013, I was in a training, and on day one, everybody has to introduce themselves, right? Who you are, how you got here. And on day one, I kind of gave my spiel, like, I'm into it, like, this is who I am, this is how I got here, and I got here because I had cancer as a kid, and I wrote a book, and you heard me give that spiel at the beginning of this call, right? And I'm probably like day 6 of the training, I made a comment like, I want to be more, right? That my fear is that I'm forever going to be known as that kid who wrote the book about cancer. And my teacher said, can I make a recommendation for you? And I said, sure. She says, maybe stop introducing yourself as the kid who wrote a book about cancer. Like, if you don't want to be known as that, maybe stop introducing yourself as that. And I was just like, oh, yeah, I'm kind of doing that to myself, right? So, and I still do it, but I do it consciously. And now I know why I do what I do. And I am so much more than just that kid who wrote a book about cancer. When I was starting out and my book was written under a pen name, Sippy Caton, that was my pen name. And Sippy Caton was famous, but nobody knew who Fally Klein was. I'm really grateful that has switched around, that today Fally Klein is recognized for who she needs to be, and Sippy Caton is just a pen name of the past. And that was based on my teacher's advice. Stop introducing yourself as that person. Be this. And Vessel is all about that. Stop introducing yourself, or stop thinking of yourself as the person who is dealing with infertility, or who got divorced, or who has a kid that's really, really struggling, right? That's not who you are. It's something that you're dealing with, but it's not who you are. And Vessel of Truth, why we call it, I call it Vessel for short. I call it Vessel for short. Okay, hi, this is my human self who totally botches up on unedited calls. We don't edit any of my calls. All of my lectures, you are going to hear me make so many mistakes on those lectures. Those lectures were actually recorded last year when I was going through a bit of a struggle adjusting to medications. I had my thyroid removed this time last year. And so the entire Vessel cohort last year was taught while I was really, really struggling. And you hear me make so many, I was really operating through a lot of brain fog last year. And my used to be perfectionist side would have been, a long time ago, would have been like, you got to edit out all of these videos, or you got to reconstruct them. And I'm like, nope, you get my human self on all of these. So that took a long time coming, but I'm really proud of it. So yeah, we call it Vessel of Truth because Vessel is designed to help you figure out who you are. Really, really, the truth of who you are, and to show up in that truth. And this life and this body is a vessel for that truth of who you are. So again, how does this compare to Ignite? It really doesn't, because Ignite is about sexuality and intimacy. And I know, and we go through this every year. Ignite always has more signups because people tend to struggle with intimacy and sexuality, and people are like, Ignite is the course that I need. And so most people feel like they want to start with Ignite first. And I don't say anything. People start with where they feel that they're at. But personally, my recommendation and my encouragement is Vessel comes first. It really comes first because Vessel is the foundation of who you are. Vessel is everything that you are. And women who have taken both will always tell you, even if they've taken Ignite first, they'll tell you that Vessel is an amazing precursor to Ignite. It really sets the foundations of your inner world, your inner psychology. It gives you the tools. Remember, Ignite can be a little more triggering. Ignite is about sexuality. We tend to have a lot of charge around intimacy and sexuality and relationships. So while Ignite is very dynamic and it brings up a lot for people, so is Vessel. But Vessel really offers you the tools to be able to then move into Ignite in a more healthy and balanced way. That being said, there are many women who have done Ignite first and they love it. But just from listening to women talk, and many, many women who have done Ignite first, they all say that after they've done Vessel, that Vessel should have come first. So it doesn't really compare. They are run along the same principles. Like they're taught in very similar ways. The structure of the course is very, very similar. There's a lecture on Sunday. You get, in Vessel, we call it heart work. In Ignite, we call it home play. But same idea, you get a workbook or a playbook, and you get meditations. And then we come back Thursday for a Q&A. So they're kind of constructed in the same way, but they target different areas of you, of your internal world, right? So Vessel is more universal and Ignite is more specific. And my encouragement is for people to take Vessel first. But again, there's no prerequisite. You can do it in whatever order really appeals to you. So why take Vessel? Like I said, I think Vessel is the manual for being human. We are such complex creatures. We're constantly growing, we're constantly evolving. And when was the last time we really took time for ourselves? You know, especially this time of year, we're prioritizing everyone else all the time. If you have kids, you're definitely prioritizing your kids. You're prioritizing dinners every night and cooking for the chagim, and you're prioritizing everybody except yourself, but you also exist. You are also a person. And Vessel helps you remember that, helps you get in touch with that. And it's the manual for recognizing how you think, how you live, how you breathe, who you are, and what your gifts are, right? We are gifted. You are so much more than just a wife. You are so much more than just a mother. You are so much more than just a teacher or just a bookkeeper. And there's no just about it. I mean, if mother is the only thing I ever get to do in my life, I am blessed. Like, Eim Habanim Semecha, hallelujah, like really, really. But I was also a person before I was a mother. I was also a person before I was a wife, right? And we have to remember that. Who is this person that is uniquely me? That is nobody else, that is me. What is this gift that I offer to the world that nobody else can? Sometimes it gets hard, especially being a mother. Like, how much laundry can you do? How much dinner can you do? And you kind of feel replaceable because anyone can do laundry. Anyone can make dinner, but who can be you? And that's what Vessel is all about. It helps you remember who you are, who you were meant to be. And it also helps you recognize the workings of your mind, of your heart, of your soul. I mean, I'm very much informed by Hasidic teachings. No, this is not a Jewish course. It's not a Torah course. This is more psychological. But as always, I'm informed by my life, right? And my hashkafa, my background. And Hasidic masters will always tell you, right, that the heart, machshava, dibor, and maisa, your mind, your speech, and your actions. But maisa, your actions are dictated by your heart, right? Your hands are extensions of your heart. So machshava, dibor, and maisa are the articles of creation. And so Vessel really takes you into the back alleys of your mind, of your patterns that form your speech and your actions, to help you recognize what they are and reorient them, repattern them, reprogram them, so that you're living your life, the way you want to. There is no magic pill. This is not a magic pill. Like, Vessel is life-changing, but not in the way you think. You are the magic pill. You are the magic. And it happens slowly over time, which is why you get to retake it every year. Yeah, we're kind of heading into the end of the hour. We're going to go a little over time, but for those of you who wanted to know how you sign up, super simple. You just go to fallyklein.com//Vessel, or if you go to my website, it's pretty intuitive. You'll click on courses on the top of the site. And again, my name, spelled FALLYKLEIN.com. And at the very top of the site, you'll see it says courses. You can click into Vessel, and it There's a button that says register here. It's pretty intuitive. So you get to retake this every single year, like I said, because there is no magic pill. This is a magic process that unfolds over time. And I love that we get to do this together. The changes, like I said, are small, but very significant. They start at a very tiny internal level, but they really ripple out. And, it's kind of like throwing a pebble into the water. The pebble can be small, but the ripples are very, very wide and travel very far. And that's what Vessel is. It's designed to help you make the smallest movements in life to see really big, profound shifts and changes. The reason why a lot of courses or programs, or even let's call it diets, right, don't work. I like diets. They don't work. It's because we're asking you to make big shifts very, very quickly. But they're starting from outside, not inside. And all of our shifts have to start in here, in our hearts and in our minds. They have to start inside of ourselves. And so Vessel is not about big shifts. It's about the smallest changes in perception, the smallest changes in our breathing, just in our awareness. And those small shifts ripple out. So they do have very long lasting effects, but they're going to be very different than what you expect, because the world conditions us to make very big changes. If you don't see a big change on the surface right away, like, what we say in this age, pics or it didn't happen, right? Pictures or it didn't happen in this media age, social media age. So like movements or it didn't happen. The movements are going to be inside. At first, you're going to be the only one noticing them, because you're going to notice that you feel different. You're going to notice that you think different. But very, very quickly, you're going to get the feedback from other people. Every year after we close registration, I advertise Vessel from mid-August up until mid-October. It's usually 8 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks that I advertise Vessel. And I know they're the busiest times of the year. Most women are like, are you crazy? I'm not signing up to a course now. And it is always after module 1 finishes, always, that I get a flood of people saying, oh my gosh, I must sign up to your course. My friend's, she's on week 1 and she's changing so much. I really need this. And I'm like, where were you? Where were you for these last 8 weeks? It's amazing how people end up showing up after registration closes because of you, because of the smallest shift that you make on week 1, on week 2, you start thinking differently, you start talking differently, and people notice and they want what you're having. So they sign up. And it happens every year that there are always a couple of stragglers who show up a week or 2 in. One of the beautiful things about Vessel is that it's designed to target many different learners. For those of you who have taken Ignite with me, it's the same thing. Some people are audio learners, some people are visual learners, some people are kinesthetic learners. They learn by doing. So I designed Vessel to be very, very jam-packed. Anything that I do is jam-packed with content to target all kinds of learners. So there's lectures, just to sit and gain information, but then there's the written homework and there's the audio meditation. Some weeks we do breath work, which is very, very dynamic. It's very practical. It's very experiential. Why? Because some of you are like, I can't listen to lectures. It just goes in one ear and out the others. Some of you are like, oh my God, I do not do writing. I'm like practically dyslexic. That's okay. So we do meditations, or we do breath work, or you do the WhatsApp group. There are so many different ways for you to absorb it all. And because there are so many different ways, a lot of people are thinking, oh my gosh, this is a ton of content. She's talking about a lecture that's an hour and a half. She's talking about a Q&A that's 2 hours. And then there's like homework and meditation. How many hours a week is she talking about? So I designed Vessel that if you were to do 100% of the content that I gave you, you would be devoting between 8 and 10 hours a week. If that sounds like a lot, it is absolutely a lot. And I don't expect anybody to do Vessel the way I actually designed for it to be done. I designed for it to be done the way you want. I'm offering 8 to 10 hours a week of content, and I want you to treat it like a smorgasbord, right? Take what serves you. Fill up your plate with how you want to eat, how you want to take in this content. Remember, the content isn't really going anywhere. You have 4 months to kind of take it the way you want it, and you can come back next year, right? And the heart work is downloadable. So you can download your workbook and have it with you. And so are the meditations. The lectures will get locked. The Q&As will get locked after a certain amount of time, but the meditations and the heart work is yours to keep coming back to as many times as you want to. So there's never any pressure to do the 8 to 10 hours a week, even though I give you all of that. Some of you want to know what kind of support you can expect with the course. So not a ton. right? You get two avenues of support with the course, and one is the Vessel WhatsApp group. It is not a substitute for therapy. It's just a place where you get to meet other like-minded people who are all talking and sharing about the same things that you're thinking about. And the Q&A. The Q&A is the only support that we give on this course, where I'm here for your questions. I cannot be reached privately on the course. I don't do that. I don't do any private work, and I don't take on any private questions. Everything has to be funneled through the Q&A or the WhatsApp group. However, if people do find that they need extra help, there are amazing coaches, therapists, mentors, facilitators that are affiliated with Vessel that offer private services. So if someone is doing Vessel and they find that they need extra support, it's not something that we offer, but it's something that we can refer you to happily, to somebody who really gets it, who may be a very good fit for what you're looking for. And if you're needing that kind of extra support, the way to go about that is by sending an email the same way you would send an email to the email address of the Q&A. You would send an email and say, hey, this is me. This is what I'm struggling with. Can you make a recommendation for someone who can help me specifically with this? You wouldn't get answered that on the Q&A. You'll get a private email response with a name or a recommendation. All right. Someone wants to know, how does Vessel compare to other courses, lectures, seminars, intensives that I've done? It doesn't. I mean, how can I know? I haven't done those things. I think the most unique part of Vessel, right, is that Vessel is not set in stone. It's very universal. So the lecture is only the smallest part of what you're experiencing. It's very, very dynamic. So even if you've taken Vessel 2 years ago and 3 years ago, right, and it might be your 5th time taking Vessel, you're going to learn something new every time, because that's how it's designed. It's designed to bring up new things for you every time. And a huge portion of this content is the Q&A. So even though you may have heard content of the lecture before, the Q&A is brand new every time. So I don't know that it can really compare to other lectures or seminars that you may have attended, because it's very, very dynamic. It changes each year, and it changes according to you. It's really designed with you in mind to bring whatever you need to the surface. All right, let's go into the Zoom chat and see some of your questions that I have not answers. Okay, whoa, scrolling all the way up to the top. I love the person who texted me privately and says, can we start Vessel already? Yes, 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 I can't wait to start Vessel. And then some of you were commenting on the music. We love starting our Zoom classes with a little bit of music to help us get into the vibe. And they were such a highlight last year that we started our Zoom classes with music. We ended up having like a Vessel playlist and an Ignite playlist. It's so fun. Okay. Yes, someone is spying a yellow car in the background right over here. Yeah, yellow cars. If you're on my email list, you would have heard my yellow car stories. Yellow cars, well, we talk about that more in module 7, the module of manifestation. Yeah, we should probably go through the modules and tell you a little bit about what they include. So module 1 is about self-love. And if that sounds very cheesy, yeah, I thought so too, until I realized that I'm actually the worst at self-love. I punished myself into being a perfectionist my whole life. And that didn't... that got me to be very, very, very successful. It also gave me a full-blown anxiety disorder. So yeah, so self-love, the module of self-love, it's not fluffy at all. We're not talking about fuzzy slippers or like, we're not talking about self-care. All right, get that straight from the beginning. Self-love is not self-care. They are two very, very different things. And everything that I do, I'm not one of those soft and mushy people, although people do tell me that I'm mellowing as I get older with time. You never know. One day I might be one of those soft and mushy people. I'm not there quite yet. Our concepts about self-love are more psychological and very deep in nature about what it means and why it's a foundation. Module 2 is a return to integrity, and that comes about this idea of the vessel of truth. What is that truth inside of you that we're returning to? Module 3 is called the language of emotions, really understanding what your emotions are, why they were created, how they serve you, how you can navigate them better. That's module 3. Module 4 is when things get a little gritty. We start talking about your shadows. Shadows are the parts of yourself that you've hidden away. And I'm going to share something completely mind-blowing with you. Yeah, we're over time at this point anyway, so if you're staying, you may as well just stay, right? I've always been fascinated by the Aceros Cedibros. It's one of my passions. And I've never really understood Like the first 5 kind of make sense, like Anochi Hashem Elokecha, Lo Yeh Lecha Elokim Acherim, like, right? I am God, there should be no other gods, don't take God's name in vain, you should come back to rest to your God on Shabbos, right? I mean, they made sense. And then, the parents, because God comes to you through your parents, right? Your parents and God had to partner together to make a child. But what I never understood is why the 6th one is you shall not commit murder. Like, what does murder have to do with your parents, right? Honor your father and mother, and then do not commit murder. And what I've learned over the years is that everything that you are comes from your father and mother. The good, the bad, like even the stuff that you say, I'm completely not like my father and mother, I'm doing things completely differently. Well, it's because of your father and mother that you're learning to do things completely differently, right? So when you don't honor your father and mother, when you look at your father and mother and say, I don't honor you, I don't respect you, what happens is you learn to not honor a part of yourself, the part that you inherited from your father, right? You're like, I cut off that part. And so essentially what we do is we commit murder. We murder parts inside of ourselves. And that's why that comes next. And so week 4 is all about that. What parts in our side of ourselves have we murdered or tried to or shut away? And we bring those back out to the surface to see what gifts they have for us. Module 5 is about, hey, when we do that, right? When we can bring back those hidden parts, automatically we go back to that God side of the Aseret Dibros. And don't worry, we don't talk about all this God stuff in the course. We keep it fairly psychological. All of a sudden we recognize our divinity. There's something more in me. When I can bring all those parts to the surface, there's a higher me that's at play here. And so that's module 5, my higher self. Module 6 is when we talk about trauma. After we've reclaimed our higher self, then we are ready to talk about trauma, which also makes this course very different from a lot of other courses. Because when we're in pain, we want to talk about our trauma first, right? This is what happened to me. This is why I'm so sad. We don't talk about trauma until almost the very, very end of the course. And when you're there, you'll recognize why. And by the time we finish module 6, we all have such a different understanding and awareness about what trauma is and how it affects us. And it's one of the most enlightening and eye-opening parts of the entire course, which I love. Module 7 is about manifestation. It's about living life to the fullest, like really, really living life full of magic. And that's where our yellow cars come in. If you have been on my email list and gotten my yellow car email, I wrote a story over there about how I wanted to open my mind to really experiencing blessing. I didn't believe that I was able to, so I chose a very small blessing. I told the universe, I told God, I want to see yellow cars, because I didn't really, believe that they existed. And now wherever I go, there are yellow cars every day at all times. So we talk about that more in module 7. And module 8 is about thriving. So many of us go into therapy or this work because we're in pain. And then once we're out of pain, we're not really sure where to go next. We haven't been taught how to thrive, that living life to its fullest is its own joy and its own lesson. So we spend a lot of time on that in module 8, like how to live life to the fullest. Now that we're out of pain, now that we've moved past trauma, module 7 and 8 are about moving higher and living a life of thriving. So yes, the yellow car in the background. Someone says, I want to grow together with my spouse. Would it be okay to share the recordings with my husband? Yes, of course. Of course you should grow together with your spouse. We don't allow for men to be on the women's chat group. Obviously, we want to keep the space safe for the women there. But there are many men who listen along with their wives on the lectures. I mean, of course, the course is designed for women. I'm a woman, right? So I speak to my own experience, but we have many husbands listening in, and they should. It's a joy to do this work together. Someone asked, are the Q&A recorded? They are, and they will be uploaded to the platform for you to access later. Okay. Someone asked, is there any chance that this current webinar will be accessed after? Yes. I will be posting this on YouTube. All you would have to do is type in Fally Klein Vessel, and you can share that with your friends. It should be available within the next 30 minutes. This recording will be going out in an email if you're on my email list. If you're not, go to my website, FallyKlein.com, get yourself on the email list so you'll have a recording. Please feel free to share this with all of your friends. And very likely within the next 24 hours or so, this video will be posted to my website as well. And someone says, I can't wait for it to start again on the call to get even more hyped up. Yes, there are so many women on this call that have been on Vessel before, which always surprises me. Like, guys, you've already done Vessel. Like, you're on this call again. Well, thank you for your support and for being here for me. I love seeing all of those familiar faces and names on the call. But yeah, there's a reason why people keep coming back, because like I said, it feels like coming home. It feels like camp. We get excited every year before we start to be part of this again. I get excited too. So you can sign up after Yontif. The course begins Sunday, October 15. You can sign up. I probably, we didn't set a cutoff date, but I'm just thinking when the emails go out, you can sign up probably until like Friday before we begin. And if you wanted to sign up, even probably until Motzei Shabbos midnight, I can't really tell you because I'm not the one designing the back end of my site. I would have to talk to my programmer. But yes, you can absolutely sign up after Yontif. And like I said, there are always those stragglers who try to sign up in week 2, right? So I'm pretty sure that we can make that happen for you as well. And for those of you who like the call but are still kind of like, how do I know if this work is going to speak to me? I would highly suggest that you go to my website, FallyKlein.com. Do you get the sense that I'm talking about my website a lot? Yes, because it's a new website and I'm very, very, very excited about it. It took me years to feel brave enough to start to like build my website. I've kind of shied away from it for a long time, and I'm really, really excited that it's finally live. Someone told me something really nice a couple of years ago. Your website is like your house online. It's like when people want to come visit you, they knock on your front door. Your website is where they visit you on the internet. So like it took me a while to design my internet home, and I'm really proud of it. I'm very excited for you to take a tour around my internet home. So by all means, go check it out. And if you want to know what my work is like, on the home page, if you sign up to my mailing list, you get a free audio meditation download. It's a 17-minute audio meditation that, if I do say so myself, is very, very beautiful. And you'll get not only a free meditation, but you'll get a really nice idea of what the work is like, what I sound like, what these meditations are like, and hopefully it'll get you excited to sign up. How many people can join Vessel? As many as want to. The first year when we started, we actually started during COVID. I think there were probably, I don't remember, maybe 20 people that signed up. I think last year we had 50. So every year, like let's go. Let's keep rising. Let's hope we have 100 people sign up. Let's have the entire world sign up to Vessel, because honestly, we all should have access to these ideas and these teachings. And if you go to my website on Ignite's page, not on Vessel, but on Ignite's page, I wrote something there that my goal for Ignite is for it to be obsolete within 10 years. I hope that in 10 years, by the time our daughters are our age, our daughters are women, they shouldn't be looking on the internet for a course like Ignite. They should have this information. Our women, the mothers, should be giving this information over to their daughters because they deserve it. These courses exist because when I needed this information, it wasn't there. And my passion is for everyone to have this information so that our children shouldn't have to go looking for it. So how many people can join Vessel? Like right now, I want to set the whole world on fire with this information so that eventually it won't be necessary anymore. So please, by all means, send the information, the call, the registration to your friends. We would love to see them there. Thank you, everybody, for spending your morning with me. It has been so enjoyable, so wonderful, and I can't wait to see you all on Vessel.